Okay, so theoretically, that's going to work out. But can I have a show of hands? How many people here ate lunch? Ooh, that looks like almost 100%. Pretty darn close to it. So we saw on the agenda that Dan and I would be after lunch, a little bit after lunch. Lunch is settled. You're kind of getting comfy, all those kinds of things. So part of our role is to break up that whole comfy thing and get you moving a little bit. And we've met a lot of neat people in our short time here in Wyoming. Felt very, very welcomed and comfortable. A gentleman that we met in the hotel lobby, got to talking with him, and our focus, keep the main thing, jobs, things like that. And I met a gentleman who, well, first, has anybody here heard of Josh Blue? And you can do a show of hands. Couple people, 3, 4 people heard of Josh Blue. So Josh Blue once was visiting Washington. He's a professional comedian and also experiences a disability. And this fella in the hotel lobby at the Hampton Inn had a Josh Blue shirt on. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a Josh Blue shirt, and it had JB written on it. So I thought, he's met Josh Blue. Cool. So we got to talking, and he said that he also, because I mentioned Josh Blue, well, it's a professional comedian, right? Yeah. And he said, well, he also was a professional comedian. So we'd like to start with... Not pro. He's been paid, though, am I right? He's been paid. So for me, you're paid. There's a certain profession there. So I would like to start with Aaron, one of your very own from Wyoming. There you go.
I guess my job was kind of get your attention again, get you guys laughing. I have cerebral palsy. Basically, for some of the, I'm sure those of you, most of you know what that is, but if you don't, basically, I can't control some of my muscles, so that can be kind of bad for picking up girls. Like if I'm out in public and I see a pretty girl and I go up to her and I get excited, my hand kind of accidentally slaps her on the ass. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. That's probably why I'm still single.
There we go.
So with that, I'll turn it over to, I don't even know this guy's name. I don't even know
Mike.
Mike, yeah. With that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Beautiful, thank you. And I did ask him, he said, hey, he's open to gigs. Now I said, I don't know, based on the opening line, I'm not sure how many gigs you might get out of this group, but you all know people who might want in on that. So I thought that was good. Well, so speaking of technology, we'll
You got my check.
Yes, your money is coming. We'll catch you afterwards. And we told we'd pay him, and we will. So that might work, or that might not work?
That might not work.
That might not work?
Ready?
Okay, that's all right. You have a microphone there.
Okay. Can I get my notes?
Okay, so with the lack of the PowerPoint currently operating, okay, how many people here are parents or family members of a person with a disability? Okay, so in this situation, you guys are vets and pros. If the first thing doesn't work, you're on to plan B, maybe plan C, maybe plan D. You've done this many times, maybe today. So this isn't anything new to you. Diane and I also are both parents and parents of children with special needs as well. So I guess I'll start with, so as you can see, or not, the intro slide says, one of the roles that I have in my life is I'm the Island County Developmental Disabilities Coordinator. Now, we're in Wyoming. What does that mean, Island County Developmental Disabilities Coordinator? So in the state of Washington, the dollars, this is about dollars and jobs, right? The dollars to support employment flow through the county. Basically, I don't know when that started, whenever that is that started. They said local control over those employment dollars is probably a good thing. So all that means is there's local control. The county is the one that then has the contracts with the agencies in order to do good things to help people get employed and stay employed. So that's what that means. The slide also, well, you know what I mean, says, father of 4 teenagers. How many here have ever been a parent of a teenager? Thank you, and you're all still awake. That's excellent. All right. So afterwards, I'm very open to hearing any advice you might have. I have not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 teenagers, of which 2 are they're 17-year-old twins. So the good thing is, my wife and I are still married. This is great. We think this is just another phase. We're looking
She's a
forward.
saint.
She is. We're looking forward to getting through that phase back. And I'm told that when the kids somewhere, maybe possibly in their 20s, they'll start to think that we know something again. Looking forward to that. Let's see. I'll leave that as my intro for now.
Okay, well, I'm Diane Fesler Macaluso. I'm the transition coordinator at Oak Harbor High School. I've been on a long journey to get there, and I can honestly say that I work in heaven. I talk all the time. I'll be walking down the hall of the high school, and people will go, "How are you?" And I say, "This is the best it's ever gotten," and I'm not ashamed to say I'm 60 years old. And I'm living the dream. And, of course, they're teachers at a high school, and they're like, okay, she's crazy. I'm like, no, it's really true. So we have a lot of really nice things going on in Washington and in our little school district that's very rural. Mike, did you talk about where we were from? Island?
Not yet. That's the next slide.
Okay. So anyways, let's talk about myself then, which is, easy. So I came to where I am today and to what's going on in Oak Harbor and partially kind of Washington State, I guess, via little things that happened all along the way, as all of you probably have too. I look around and I can tell just by the looks, social services agency people, school people, we all come here with our own journey, parents. My son, I have 3 sons, my 3 sons. My middle son I got from school one day. Yep, went to school one day, came home with him, said I'll keep him for a couple weeks. He's now 33, lives right next door to me, and he's a wonderful young man who experiences cerebral palsy. He's quadriplegic and requires 24-hour care. So my journey with him, I got him when he was 9 years old from school, and he has impacted and, of course, changed my life dramatically. But my journey started actually when I was in elementary school. I've never told Mike this story. He might cry. Yeah. I remember I was kind of I've always been a live on the edge kind of person. So I was that kind of child. And one day I was out of class in the girls' restroom during class, and I heard some mischievous giggling going on. So of course that piqued my interest. And I went over and I noticed 2 girls standing on a toilet in a stall, looking over the stall and giggling and laughing at something that was going on in that stall. So I was like, whoa, I wonder what that's all about. So I just kind of busied myself and went in a different stall, and then they left. And I went over there to see what the giggling was all about. And if I didn't think I'd fall off this chair, I'd stand up there. But I got up on that toilet and looked over that stall wall, and what I saw, whoops, maybe it's me that's going to cry. I saw a young child, student, who now I know had Down syndrome, who those girls were spitting on. And I didn't even know we had kids with disabilities in my elementary school. And I went home and I told my mom about this. And I was like, Mom, there was this girl and she looked different and these girls are being mean to her. And what's that all about? And she said, well, I think there's a class at your school. I think there's a class for kids with special needs, with disabilities at your school. And I went looking for that class and not hard enough, and I didn't ever find it. And I never saw those kids, and I never saw that girl again. And later in life, as a teenager, I got doing some community service work. And my first experience with hands-on working with people with disabilities was working at doing some volunteer with the Services for the Blind. And we were teenagers, and we went and met teenagers who were blind, and I was like blown away. I thought, man, they say things like, let's look at that, and I see that, and I'm like, they say look and see? I mean, that's where my frame of reference was there, right? So those little nuggets of my early and adolescent upbringing and just opportunities that came to me. And then on, I ended up going into OT school. I was a certified occupational therapy assistant in the Oak Harbor School District, so I'll fast forward through that. But I went to OT school in Green River, Washington, and then did a lot of different OT work, but my real life started professionally. Whoa!
It's working.
Great. Okay, so I'll run this short. So I started working in the Oak Harbor School District about 1988, and I was a COTA, and I worked as a COTA. Loved that job for about 17 years. Was starting to get a little burnout, and I got called in the special ed director's job, and I had acquired my son Jason by then, right? And he had gone through the school system, and I was one of those parents who was always pushing the bar and asking the questions and making him do things that they were uncomfortable doing, and like putting him in general ed classrooms because he's intelligent, that kind of thing. But so then they called me in and said, you know, next year, we'd like to create a job for you. We'd like to make you a new job. It's called the career specialist. And we're going to let you go up to the high school and do whatever you want. It's like, righteous. All right. So I did that for about 5 years, ended up taking a couple years off to finish a degree and then go back and get my master's at the same time. My son Jason got gravely ill 3 times in 18 months. We almost lost him. And, but he's healthy and happy, and, you know, we came through all that. But, so I did this career specialist thing. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. But then, as I went back to school, then I got my special ed, my master's in special education. You can get a degree in your jammies. Did you know that? That's the way I got my master's degree, writing papers and doing things in my jammies every night. So now I'm the transition coordinator. I've only been the transition coordinator at Oak Harbor High School for 2.5 years. I was ever so grateful when they pulled me out. I was doing my student teaching in an elementary school. How many educators are here? Holy cow.
Couple.
You work hard. I was doing my student teaching in an elementary school, and they called me midway through it and said, would you like to go up to the high school and do transition? I was like, yes, get me out of here. Oh my gosh, it's so much work. Wow, it's unbelievable how much work teachers do. But anyhow, so I went up and started the or kind of shifted the transition program and the focus of it, and have had some success, but mostly it's, I call, happy accidents that got us to the place we were. And the reason I'm here probably is because all of my students who left this year, which were 5 of them who left my program this year, all have paid employment. First time in Oak Harbor's history. Not big jobs, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but, and I certainly didn't do it on my own. I have 3 of the most wonderful staff who are just great. So anyway.
There you go.
Oh, and I'm a grandmother. So, there you go.
Pictures upon request. And we already covered that. Okay, there's what I was looking for. Hey, and so this little button on the right is your key to going forward. So, a couple of things. We talked about, jobs. By the way, transition. When we're referring to transition, we're talking about the transition from 18 years old to 21 years old in school. We were having lunch with some folks, and there's a lot of different places you can talk about transition. That transition from the birth to 3 to the next step into the school district, that kind of thing. So we're really talking about that transition out of the school district into what many of us refer to as real life, post-school. So keeping the main thing the main thing. Next question. How many people are from the Gillette area here? Left hand. Please raise your left hand on this one, not your other left or your other right. So, all right, some Gillette folks. We have very good news for Gillette. So right when we got
I've been
here,
job developing.
yes, right when we got here, we go to the hotel, and well, aside from that, well, so the part of the story I want to tell you is that the person, you know, behind the desk there said, your room's not ready yet, you know, it hasn't been cleaned yet, and, you know, we're on the same plane with Shelby, so we arrived at, I don't know, when did we arrive, 5-ish or 3-ish or whenever it was, I don't know. We were traveling, but it was deeper into the afternoon, I thought. And they said that, you know, it hasn't been cleaned. I was like, no big deal. I just want to drop my stuff down. Not that big deal. So, and then she added, yeah, there's not enough people that are willing to work for minimum wage to clean the rooms. And we look at each other like there's this huge light bulb between us. Like, yes, we think we know people who are willing to clean a room for minimum wage. You know, well,
It was more than minimum wage. It was
more than minimum
$8
wage.
an hour.
That's right. Well, yeah,
I was just
what they're
smiling.
paying. So
there you go.
yeah,
There's your lead.
in our world, that's gold.
Yeah.
Somebody just said that we can't find enough people to clean these rooms, you know, and they're paying a little bit better than minimum wage. We're like, oh boy, we might know some folks, you know. Diane, we would have been there already again and introduced them to some folks and said, having trouble, huh? That probably doesn't help your business in the bottom line. Maybe we can help you move forward. This might be a good thing. And then you go from there. It's the bottom line is keep the main thing the main thing. It's about jobs. And we weren't in Gillette for longer than, well, we got to the airport, and then a van eventually came, brought us so we weren't in Gillette for more than 45 minutes, and we think we already have some jobs. And we look forward to coming back or hearing the stories about who got those jobs. Gillette, folks from Gillette, how many people graduate from your high school? Just what's the whole graduating class? Yeah. How many people graduate from the graduating classes here? 500 something, for crying out loud. We don't have anything that big in our place. So here's the next question. Oh, by the way, we thought we liked Michael's thing where he handed stuff out. Is Michael here? Okay, that's just fine. We're going to hand stuff out. So he's got some stuff left over. Who was that? Ready? Here we go. Bubbles. So how many people live in Gillette? Go ahead and yell it out. How many? How many people live in Gillette?
30,000.
30,000, good golly. So the biggest community in our county is Oak Harbor, and there's about, I think it's a little shy of 25,000, okay? So you guys, your biggest community, or the community that we're in, is bigger than the largest community in our area. But we both live on Whidbey Island. It's 60 miles long. We have arguments with Long Island, New York, about which one is the longest island in the continental U.S. That's a whole other story. But so we live on Whidbey Island, which is about 60 miles long. And then there's another island across the water that we can see called Camano. Camano has shy of 10,000 folks on it. It's more like 7,000 or 8,000. The balance is on Whidbey. Largest community is 25,000. The entire community, our county, is 75,000. Quick math. Anybody go ahead and throw it out. How many people live in the sticks? In other words, don't live in the huge community. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes.
200 people.
Wait. So there's 25,000 in Oak Harbor. That's our biggest city. The entire county is 75,000 people.
Yeah.
Our entire county is 15,000.
15,000. Okay, so different county than ours, right? And I talked to a legislator somewhere here. No, where was that guy? His county was about 10,000 or so. That would be the size of about Camano Island for us. But so we have 25,000 people in one town. There's 75,000 folks in the entire county. How many people don't live in that town in our county? 50. Hey, you got bubbles. You got bubbles. That baby. So there's 50,000 people. Now I have to also tell you there's 2 other incorporated cities. My phone and a desk is in Coupeville. That's kind of the county seat, you would call it. That has, there's about 1,800 or so. We just graduated 61, so there's probably about 50 1,555 that'll be going away, so we might be down to 1,750 or so. And then there's another place down at the southern tip of the island, which I don't know. We think it's about 1,000. They call them, it's Langley, and they call themselves the Village by the Sea. That's what they put out in the tourist brochures. It's a very nice place. So they got about 1,000 or so, but don't hold us to that. We're not exactly sure. So we want to let you know that because one, it's beautiful, but let's leave that slide on for a little bit. But to say, hey, we're familiar with rural. That's where we're coming from, okay? We're coming from that. And I live actually, the address says Greenbank. Greenbank, quite honestly, is a zip code. There's a store about a mile from us. And you can't live on the island and be further away from any proof of human existence than where I'm at. There isn't I got to go a long ways for a grocery store. Earlier you heard me say that there were 4 teenagers in the house. The whole thing about being so far away from grocery stores, our mistake. We weren't thinking forward, you know. That's created issues at this point in life. But we'll make it through. Okay, what else? Is there anything else on that? Let me tell you this. So important. We're talking about jobs is the main thing, right? Who are the main employers in our community? Mm-hmm. So we've already run into somebody almost immediately Lee over here, when we said we were from Whidbey Island, he said, my brother-in-law. Who was that? Yeah. Brother-in-law. He used to be based on Whidbey Island. There's a Navy station, you know that community with 25,000? There's a Navy station. That's Naval Air Station Whidbey. Anybody else heard of that? Well, look at that, 2 more. Okay, 3 more. Wow. So that's look, it's a big Navy base, and they're bringing more squadrons in. So that's the biggest employer in our county, bar none, without a doubt. We do have a hospital on the island. That's a big employer as well. The school districts are right up there. There's 3 school districts. One graduates about 350. Is that about right? The one where my kids go, that's the one with 61. There's another high school on the south end that graduates about 120. And county government. I work for the county. I shared that with you. The county, I don't know how many people the county employ. Happy to say the county does employ 1 person with developmental disability. 1 person. So it all helps, right? So that's a good thing. The hospital. Is there anybody here who works for the hospital? A hospital? Nothing? No more, what was the RN stood for? Something in neurotic. Rigid and neurotic. I'd never heard that before. I'm going to have to use that. Is great. The hospital. If anybody had worked for a hospital, I was going to ask you for some advice. Our community, there's a higher percentage than the average bear of folks who are retirees. Whidbey Island's a nice place. Take a look at that picture. It's beautiful. That's the thing that makes it on a lot of brochures. Wyoming. So Whidbey Island is the location for the entire state of Washington. That bridge is from what's called Deception Pass State Park. That's a bridge. That's how you can get onto the north end of the island. It is the most visited state park in the entire system in the state. And I know that Wyoming, you're quite familiar with very popular national parks for you guys. For us, it's the state park. So very beautiful. But a lot of retirees live in our community. And those retirees are very giving. They have some have a lot of time on their hands and they're around. Our hospital has 8 zillion volunteers, and they put in anywhere from a couple hours a week to 40 hours a week. So if you want to get a job at the hospital, it's pretty hard because they got so many volunteers. You know, there's not a lot of work left to do, like to get paid. So we're still, even though they're a large employer, some serious challenges there. And from a community standpoint, it's a great thing. Good that you have a lot of volunteers, and that's one of the ways that your hospital is able to make it. From trying to get folks employed who are leaving school, and it'd be great to have them in your own, stay in your community, it's a challenge. So those are the big employers. So you might have connected the dots. I didn't really say, we're doing great getting employed at some of these big employers. That's not really the story. That's not been our experience so far. Where folks are getting employed is not the biggies. I would love to come back in a year and say, we got the biggies, it's happening. That's not the deal right now. That's what we have to share there. I think I've covered the beautiful slide.
Okay. So one thing I wanted to say about that, though, is with all the volunteers, and the volunteer coordinator at the hospital is wonderful. And so any place that I can't get my students in for paid work, and of course I'm a transition coordinator, so I don't go into a business and say, hey, I have a student who I want to come in here and do a work experience and then have you pay them to work here. I never do that. I talk to them and give them the paperwork for doing internship and getting work experience, and then sometimes it just works out that that employer wants that student to work there, and that had actually happened this year a couple of times. So there's the good and the bad to that. Sometimes it's wonderful, of course, because paid work is the deal, right? And that's what we're all about. But then I might lose that site for an internship. But guess what? That just means I have to go somewhere else and look somewhere else. And as I'll talk about in a little while, it's all about students and what they want to do anyway, right? So some of the benefits and challenges for our rural transition programs, the challenges are our programs are smaller, right? We don't have tons of kids. We don't have tons of businesses. Our caseloads vary from year to year with not only maybe numbers, but also the types of students we got. This fall, I'm getting 4 new high-functioning Asperger's kids who all took AP classes in high school, but they don't know how to dress, they don't know how to wash their hair, they don't know how to get a job, they don't have the social skills to make it, and we know that that's what causes our people to lose their jobs, don't we, folks? Mm-hmm. It's not that they can't do the job, it's not they can't do the work, it's not that they don't get to work on time sometimes, it's they don't have the social skills to maintain it. And I hear people talk about, oh yeah, we gave this kid this job and he's so cute, you know, or, you know, it's kind of, they did it as a favor or whatever. Well, pretty soon, if you have social skills that are irritating or they're cute in the beginning, but they don't work in the real world, that company, that organization is going to find a way to get rid of that person. Right? So it's very important that we do real stuff. Anyway, we have the other challenges is, like I was saying, a spectrum of disability. So I have these 4 high-functioning autistic kids this year who all want to go to college. Lucky for us, we have a community college in our town. So as I'm doing my planning for this year, I will be having a little cohort. They will not go out in a special ed amoeba, as I call it. I remember my special ed director said, when I took over, I said, well, you know, I have this many aides and this many jobs and this many this, and how can I? She said, well, you just have to take them out in a group. No, I'm not. I didn't say that to her, but I did not do that, right? Anyway, so these kids now are going to be going and accessing the college, and so it's new for us, right? This is new. We haven't had students who wanted to go to college so much, and now this is going to happen this year. So I'm really excited about that. One of the other challenges is we have fewer businesses, right? We're small, and we're a very small town. We have a little marina, and we have a sailboat race a couple times a year, and we have sailors coming in, but we're not really that seacoast kind of cute town either, too much. We have a long way to go for that. So we have a lot of small businesses that start up and then bite it. You know, so I try to get in there while they're starting up. So we have fewer businesses, and many places, and I've heard this as we've been traveling around here, transportation is huge, isn't it? How many people think transportation is like huge? Yeah. We are extremely fortunate on our island. I hope this doesn't disqualify me as your speaker here today, but we have free public transportation on Whidbey Island. And we have door-to-door paratransit service free on Whidbey Island. And it is wonderful. All of my students in transition do not ride the little yellow school bus to school, and I tell their parents that in the spring when we're doing their transition meetings. And half the time the parents look at me and like, what? Ever ride the bus? Yes. They're grown-ups.
So I'll take this opportunity to point out, so like I said, there, like you heard already, how many, well, let me get the blood flow again. How many high schools are in our community? 3, hey, you get bubbles. So there's 3 high schools, and I have to, there's an interesting thing, the other island, Camino, thank you, all those kids go to a high school just off the island in another county, as odd as that may be. But so there's 3 high schools that are physically in our county, and 1 serves kids in our county. But what I was going to say was, so on the 3, well, actually all 4. This counts for all 4 high schools. Diane and her team, that's the only one that says, you know, in those transition years, you're not taking the school bus, you're not doing what everybody did up until 18, you know. You're going to go, that's another way they demonstrate this is the adult world, okay? You're going to get there in a different way.
Right. And I know some of you are probably sitting there thinking, who was talking earlier, Mike, the other, I don't know, somebody, about the yeah but. Well, let me tell you, I had a student last year who was coming to my transition program, who had been in the life skills classroom, who her typical morning was, she got off the school bus, she threw her backpack on top of the school building, she kicked off her shoes, she was escorted into the building, into her life skills class, where she had her own little room with her own little things to work on, where she proceeded to tip over the table, tear off her clothes, have a big fit, blah, blah, blah. They'd have the principal and the safety officer and everybody, and they're looking in the window going, we don't know what to do with that. And she had one of these little communication systems where she had to do A, B, C, D, and E, blah, blah, blah. And if she didn't do it, then they started the process all over again. And I was not invited in to consult, so I just waited to get her. So in the spring, when we had her transition meeting with her folks, and I said, you know, Michelle's going to ride the paratransit. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah. So before school started, for 3 days, the first day I went to her house, I set up the paratransit, I met them, I rode the paratransit with her. This was before school started. Rode the paratransit to school, took her to my classroom, had work for her to do there, rode the bus home with her. The next day, she came out of her house. I saw her go out, get right on the bus, so I got in my car and I followed the bus. The next day, she took the bus. Every single day this year, she took the bus. She never had a fit. Well, I'm not saying she never had a fit in my class. I'm not going to say that. She never tipped over a table. She never, all those things that they were saying this morning, I was sitting there going, yep, yep, yep. Because here was a kid who was made to conform to people who were telling her what to do, and I observed her. I got that from OT school. We need to do more observation, and really good observation. And I watched that girl, and I watched her eyes, and I watched how smart she was. And so I had this whole cupboard full of work for her, and I took her communication book, and I put it over on the other side of the table. I said, what do you want to do? She works for 3 hours straight every day. And so by the mid-year this year, we were taking her out to 2 different sites in the community to do the kind of work she liked to do. It was volunteer. It was for an hour. Sometimes she didn't make the whole thing. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and this is the young lady. This is the young lady that disrobed herself. Is
yes.
that right? Okay,
yeah.
Just checking.
So what I'm saying here is, you can do this by sometimes just taking a step back and not believing what everybody else had been saying about not only her, about her parents, about all that. It's just like, watch the kid. See what the kid wants to do, and then marry that to work, okay?
Okay, because another slide's up, we got to do something else. So, all right, so how about this is the touchdown signal, and we're going to say this is the signal for I love doing group activities. Go ahead. Everybody who loves doing group activities, raise the touchdown signal. I got 1, I got 2. Okay, I have very good news, especially for the rest of the folks that didn't raise their hands. We're not going to do a group activity right now, but there's an asterisk. Okay, yeah, I got clapping. This is good. I got clapping in the back. Here's the deal. I'm going to simply ask you, tell us a challenge that, and again, transition, we're talking about 18 to 21. Tell us a challenge in your community that you think that your transition program has transitioning from school to what I'm going to call real adult life. So this is the part where if you don't want to break up into a group activity, you say something. I probably give you I still have Mike's bubbles and all that, but you have to say something or we break up into a group activity. All right, go ahead. What's a big challenge you have?
Math.
Oh, I like
A lot of people that will give volunteer experience, and then we have students that are able to master what they're able to do, but then they're never offered paid employment.
Who else had their hand up?
Okay, so they can volunteer forever? Right. So that's free labor.
Okay.
And- yeah.
And do you want to shout it out?
Again, unrealistic expectations.
That's a challenge? Okay.
On the part of the students or the parents.
Unrealistic expectations, all right.
So
got it.
students have unrealistic expectations about what they can do or what they should get to do? Or, yeah. Okay. Don't they all want to be game designers? Yes, they do.
And the trick is, what do you do with that? But go ahead.
Lack of expectation.
Right.
That's, you know.
From parents or kids?
Well, a lot of times the teachers and the staff at the school have more confidence and have higher expectations than the parents
Right.
will have for their child.
Yep.
All right.
It goes both ways everywhere, right?
The far sides need to come up with something, or we're going to put you on group activity. That's all there is to it. Jeffrey, what do you got?
Not any businesses in our income.
Not very many businesses.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Hey, I got
That's
bubbles.
Good deal.
Help me, help me.
Yeah.
All right, so this Jeffrey might have covered for you guys. You owe him later. What do we got on the far side? Are you guys doing group activities, or you got something for us? There we go.
Employer who will let them work because they're getting paid by the state, then when it comes push to shove and it's time to hire them on a full-time basis, they back down.
Right.
With the understanding that they can probably take them at the beginning.
Can you summarize that? What was that?
Oh, an employer will take I call them students or a client or whatever, a person, and while the state's paying, but as soon as the state funds fall off but the expectation in the beginning was they would hire them. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. Hey, so that qualifies. You've just dodged the group exercise for the day. All right, atta baby. All right, and this is where you click?
Oh,
Yep.
well, are we going to answer it? Okay. Okay,
There we go.
so all I want to say to you is that was not just right
No,
in there.
no, there was-
Those are common problems, right? They are common problems that we all have to work on. And I don't have, of course, we're not here with all the answers, are we? No, we're not.
Nope.
But I think for myself, staying positive and trying to keep in the groove of staying positive, and especially when you're talking about parents and expectations, and because it works both ways, right? And especially dealing with parents, I'm going to talk about this maybe a little bit later if we have time, because it's one of the later slides, but I really find that because I was a parent, and I was, not always the best parent, did my best, but, we screw up, right? You got to meet them where they are. You have to meet them where they are. And they, just like your students, will surprise the heck out of you. And you have to have that belief in your heart that they are going to, someday you're going to get a call and you're going to be, am I really talking to Miss Jones? Is she really saying this to me? I mean, that happens. Because if you just meet them where they're at and be positive with them and try not to be negative about them because you don't wear their shoes, right? And they don't wear your shoes. So also that respect has to go both ways. Building programs at work. Okay. Building programs at work, from my perspective, is we don't have any time to waste. So we have to build programs that work. And we have to build programs that are student-oriented. They should be on campus for high schools and off-campus work, even during high school. I would say even into middle school. They need to incorporate independent living, personal and social skills, and work experience, all of those things, because it really is part and parcel of who we are. Of course, use evidence-based practice and competency-based approaches. That goes without saying, because we don't want to waste our time doing stupid stuff that doesn't work. It doesn't also mean that everything that is evidence-based is the best tool. I think the best tool for a good teacher is common sense.
That was referenced earlier, wasn't it?
Was it?
And my thought on common sense is common sense and common knowledge are two of the most uncommon things in the world. Be careful there.
That's right. And incorporate flexibility from year to year depending on the student's needs. And I think I'm going to get to talk about this a little bit later, but just like what I was talking about, okay, I've got 4 kids with Asperger's coming next year, I'm not going to run the same program I did this year. It's not going to look the same. When I took over the program, they had 15 kids of varying disabilities in one room for 5 hours a day. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. So I broke it up into 2 programs. I'm the one who has to work hard. Right? The students work hard, the parents work hard, but I'm the one that's going to put this program together. My aides are going to come in during the day, and they're going to do what we do as a group together. But as the coordinator of the program, it's my job to make sure that train runs, and I take that very, very seriously. So I work hard, but I love it, so it's okay. Right? So you just want to be very flexible year to year and not get in a rut. And I say this to, I don't care if you're a service provider or anything, if you're not loving your job, get out. And I don't mean that to be mean. I mean, the people that we're serving need us to love what we do. They need that. If it's not here, if it's all here, and it's not here too, you're just burnt out. So take a break. Do something else for a while. Come back.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, greenhouses on campus.
So back to when I was, I talked about when they told me just go up to the high school and do whatever you want. So I went up to the high school. I was scared because I hadn't been to the high school since I threw a few holy hell fits up there when my kid was there. But so I thought, everybody's going to hate me. It's going to be awful. And most of them were gone by then. So it was good. So I went up, and I didn't know what to do. So I walked around the campus, and I walked right into the greenhouse, and it was a dilapidated piece of junk, right? And I stood in the middle of that greenhouse, and I was like, okay, here's where I'm going to start. So we have this thing called the Oak Harbor Education Foundation grants. Your schools probably have little grants you can write as teachers. So I wrote a grant, put 2 different teachers' names on it. The principal told me to do that because I just turned it in for myself. He said, oh, put 2 other teachers' names, you get 3 times the money. Okay. So I wrote a grant for the greenhouse, $1,500. And you had to collaborate with the community, so I started collaborating with the community. And the one gentleman, you can't hardly see on this slide, but the one farthest to the left up there, it's a hilarious story about him. So I had his dad. At the same time, I was getting ready to do some person-centered planning, so I was meeting individually with my parents. So I was talking to this kid's dad. And I said, you know, what do you think Andy's going to do? Blah, 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 and we're going to do this person-centered planning. And he said, oh, Andy will never work. He'll never work. He said he just wants to play video games, eat junk food, and my wife is Japanese, and so she babies him. And so he's never going to work. And so I changed the subject, and I said, well, let's talk about person-centered planning a little bit. We're going to have this little thing, and I want you to bring some people. Who do you know that would, really see some, would be an advocate or, a booster up for Andy, maybe knows him for a long time? Oh, Andy doesn't know anybody. We don't know anybody. I was like, oh, okay. So then I started talking about something else. So then somehow I brought up this greenhouse thing. I wrote this grant for this greenhouse. He said, oh, need some help with that? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you need some help building the greenhouse. I said, well, I'm looking for a community partner because it's part of the grant. He said, oh, I'm the president of the Lions Club. And your son doesn't know anybody? And you don't know anybody? So I looked him square in the eye and I said, your son will work and you can help me build the greenhouse. And so we partnered with the Lions Club. His son did work. His son actually got a job working for the school district. He was doing an internship at an elementary school helping out with a lunch program. And one of the lunch ladies left her job, and all the other lunch ladies went to the principal and said, we want to hire Andy. And he's still there.
How many years ago was that?
That was at least 6 years ago.
So
And,
6 years ago. Good news is, and so Schoool, right, and shift the attitudes. Did you notice that nobody was interested in him working at the beginning of that story? Okay, so 6 years later, attitude shifted, changed. Didn't listen when they weren't interested, those kinds of things. 6 years later, maybe it was on the plane that I was telling Diane, he has 2 jobs now.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
He has 2 jobs. So there wasn't a, great, we got a job, we're good to go. You know, since, you know, life continues to flow. And actually, I think the second job was kind of a mutual idea. I think the gentleman kind of wanted to do something in addition or something also, and the parents kind of thought, you know, the more he works, it seems like the more he's out there, and it seems like the more people he gets to know, and kind of all those kinds of things that happen, and so maybe they thought that was a good idea too.
Right.
So yeah, so the second job, boom, boom, he's got that.
So that's what I mean. When you hear parents say, my kid's never going to do anything, yada, yada, just smile and say, okay, well, we'll see about that. Okay, so another on-campus job, I'm going to whip through these. So I started looking around, always watching, observing, looking for that job, and that thing you can create on campus so that any of the life skill kids can do it. And so back in the day, I noticed in the teachers' workroom, teachers were lined up doing copies, looking stressed out, lined up doing copies. So we printed up some teachers and made copycats, because we're cats, wildcats. So we trained the kids how to run the copy machines and how to clear paper jams, which teachers hate to do. And we made order forms up, so the teachers would leave in the copycats box. They'd fill out the order form, they'd put it in the copycats box in the office. Students would pick it up, they'd make the copies, they'd deliver them to the teachers' rooms. That job has gone away, thanks to technology, because now teachers can send it straight from their room to the machine. However, a little caveat here, in our school district, I don't know if you guys have career and technical education. They are your friends. If you have them, make them your friends. Because our career and technical education developed a teacher assistant program, and they take all kids. It's a half a credit, and the business ed teacher teaches it, and she gets 2 days off to train all the TAs. So they come, she teaches them how to do everything. There's an online curriculum they have to do to pass the class, and then they are assigned a teacher from whom they go to, or where they go every day, and they are a teacher's assistant, right? So they run copies. They're now and our students go, and sometimes she'll pair them up with another student. Sometimes she'll pair them up with a teacher who requests them, like if it's a student with special needs, they might request them, sometimes not. But there they are in that integrated thing, and they have to do, like we pair them up, if they're in my program and they need that credit, because you have to have that credit to graduate, we'll pair them up, and then they'll work with a typical student, neurotypical student in my classroom doing the online work, right? Okay. So it's awesome.
If I can do a quick jump in. So, all right, so we said we got to keep the main thing, and what is the main thing again?
Jobs.
Who said that? Somebody's got to catch that. Jobs, okay? So this is happening in school. Are they getting paid for this? No, they're not getting paid for this, okay? But then in the adult world, the agency that it's assisting folks post-21 can say, hey, are there some things that your business, I notice you have about, 8 employees, let's say, and you're paying them, let's just say $20 an hour. And those employees, some of them are making copies. They're doing kind of things that maybe aren't $20 an hour stuff, but maybe somebody could do for less, maybe around, minimum wage or maybe a little bit more. And then those folks getting $20 an hour, they can get paid to do what they're really trained for. And then there's other things that maybe we can pay other folks to do. Okay, so it's about the main thing. The main thing is the main thing, and it's about getting jobs. So there's a connection. It's not just busy work at school because we think it might be a good idea and some legislation said this is the way to go. There's a connection between what she's doing in the school and what's going to happen in that kid, that young adult's life down the line, okay? So there you go. We'll go like that. And another
job. I'll be a little more brief. Sorry, I love my stories. Shredding, right? We have kids with special and special ed, they shred. Don't they shred? Yep, they do. Well, shredding is a big business, can be a very big business. I made it into a job, right? So now the students don't just shred. I wrote a grant with that Oak Harbor Education Foundation grant again, tied it to a community, and we set up an office. We got shirts printed, nice Carhartt, no trash. Our kids are classy. Set up a business station, so now all the paper that they shred, they have to weigh it, they have to document it, they have to sign in, they have to sign out, they have to put on the form how many pounds of paper they did. And at the end of the year, I gave my principal a bill. He liked that. But I said, because I found out special ed was paying $75 a Xerox box to have this stuff shredded. I said, hey, I got kids that'll do it for $10 a box, right? So not only does it gives value to the job for the students, they're not just special ed kids shredding. And when that TA job that I told you about, the regular TAs do shredding. And so our students are shredding right next to their students. But they have to get dressed and have to keep, moving on. Cool Cats Coffee was another little grant thing. Everybody, well, a lot of the girls especially, but some of the guys, want to work at the coffee shops, right? Everybody wants to work Starbucks up in the Pacific Northwest. And we have Whidbey Coffee on our island, so they were our community partners for that. And I really wanted an espresso machine, and the wise owners talked me out of that and said, no, you want big carafes where the coffee's made right into a carafe because it's less dangerous, less hassle, and all that. And so it's Cool Cats Coffee, and the students, I think you can flick to the next one. And so the students go out in the community, and they make and serve coffee, tea, that kind of thing at different events. They have to dress up in white shirts and black pants and make sure they're all, and these are like what I call the undergrads, right? So they're learning the basics. You got to show up at 5 o'clock, you got to be dressed this, you got to do that.
So, what you miss on this picture is, if you could see it a little bit better, and maybe when you download them, I think they're going to be available and those kinds of things, the facial expressions are pretty cool.
Yeah.
They truly are cool cats. They're feeling the vibe. And again, the high school is the Wildcats. They're the Wildcats. And so there's, kind of a conscious efforts to make sure that this all fits in, that it's cool, that they're going to want to be doing this. They want to be a part of that.
Right.
And we've never done this. Let me try that. I just want to say, so in the bottom lower left corner, those two ladies, the taller one currently works at a restaurant, and she's done a couple of different things at that restaurant. I think she started in the greeter type, welcoming host type stuff, and had some hiccups there. We all thought it was great, and her mom did, and parents did, and so she shifted into some other areas that she's more interested in. She got to know the restaurant a little bit better, and there was other things that she wanted to do a little bit more, or that she was better at. And her wonderful friend with her arm around her, she just got a job and is going to start getting paid, and I can't exactly remember what the heck it's doing.
I can't either, because I don't see her.
I think it might be at a child care place or some sort of a school for youngsters, thing of that nature.
She's been working in early childhood, or doing internships there, yeah.
Cigars, what's going on with that?
Okay, so one of the partnerships I did this year was partnership with the Whidbey Animal Improvement Foundation. And they have a thrift store, and they take a lot of kids to do job training in there. The woman that my predecessor had damaged the reputation. Basically, I can't say anything else about that.
She's being very
so
nice.
I had some repairing to do there. So she was extremely nervous about our kids coming in there, and they're not going to have a job coach, and it's going to be terrible, and blah, blah. And she kept trying to talk to me. This is when I first approached her, and she said, we have stuff you could take it to your classroom and do. We need cat cigars. And I said, well, I really want to make dog cookies. We want to make dog cookies, and we want to sell them. We're going to sell them at the farmer's market, and there's no dog cookies on there. But she said, well, you could sell them here. So, okay. So anyways, I kind of got her, okay.
We got like 10 minutes.
Okay, so I got to calm down. And And I agreed that we would do some of this making cat cigars in our classroom. And that required sewing, which it ended up being a great project for our kids. They loved it. So we got, of course, on Woodby, it's organic catnip, only the best. And so the kids would do that, and they do it in some, I don't like to say downtime, but sometimes there is time when we're between lessons or there's only 2 kids left in the class because everybody else is out working, it's not their turn. So we really worked up that partnership this year. And then the concession stand, we have a big football stadium on our campus. So our kids do all the concession stand stocking, and then they also move all the merchandise from the outside to the inside concession stand for the winter sports, and they love that, and it's a great job skill, right? Because they have to load all the sodas and match them and all the candy, and then we do the popcorn, we get the popcorn already, so the volunteers just have to dump it in. That's one thing we can bring back to our classroom. If we have a student who needs to work inside the classroom, then we can do that. Yep.
This goes really quick, this part.
Okay, these are just typical jobs. You guys probably all do them. Clean our student union building. We'd help the janitor after lunch. The students do. School mail, delivering packages around, laundering gym towels and items from the nurse's office, launder and distribute lost and found items, prepare the popcorn and the cup of noodles for sale. I don't know. You know the cup of noodles they have? They have plastic around them and then paper around them. Well, if you can take that off, then when the concession stand people go to sell them, there's not a mess outside and it's easier, and that's a skill that some of our kids have learned to do. Filling the ice bags, shredding, recycling. Okay, this is Mikey.
So yeah,
we're transitioning.
I think that, hopefully that last one, I mean, she talked stories about all kinds of greenhouse, this, that, and the other, and my hope is from those, you see all kinds of different ways that she figured out how to get folks engaged and do meaningful stuff, and different partners in the community, the Animal Foundation thing, the Education Foundation, all those kinds of things, so thinking broadly, those kinds of things. Okay, Island County Transition Group. So it's what we, Diane and I are on that. So school districts, actually all 3 school districts that are on our island are invited to come once a month to get together and talk transition. It's called the Transition Council. So let's get together and be thoughtful and work on this. We know this is the focus, jobs, jobs, jobs. So for us, the state, you know, they're called the Developmental Disabilities Administration. That their lead person comes to that get-together, so thinks about transition with us. That's the focus. Department of Oak Rehab, their representative is there as well. That they're supposed to be about jobs, 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 right? And the 3 school districts. We meet monthly. Currently, it's the second Tuesday of the month at 3 o'clock. Now, the county across the water from us, they meet at 7 in the morning on, I don't know what they're, Monday or what day they do that, but once a month, 7 in the morning, because that's what works for their community. You got to do what works for your community, right? One of the things that we do, during our get-togethers, gee, what are we going to do? We kind of know each other. It's a small community. We see each other a lot. So sometimes it's understanding what are the boundaries and the challenges that, say, the Department of Oak Rehab has in this mix. What does the state have? What can they do or not do in this mix? What can the school districts do or not do? So sometimes it's just understanding the other pieces of the puzzle so that we can work better together. It really is about collaboration, because if the people in the system are not working together to get this done, how in the world is it ever going to get done? It ain't going to happen. You better be working together. It doesn't mean you don't have your differences or personalities and all those kinds of things, but still you got to figure out how to move together. The county, that's another kind of benefit of having a local drive or some local involvement, is the county leads that and says this is important. We used to, we have a transition resource fair. We used to just call it, I'll go brief. There's been an evolution, okay? If some project that you're doing over years doesn't have an evolution, I suspect you should stop it, because it's dead. You've got to shift and grow. We used to do it in the spring. Why did we do it in the spring? Well, quite honestly, we didn't have our crap together early enough in the fall. The school doesn't get back and running until September. You really can't see the school staff until October because they're so busy in September, right? So we would do it in the spring. Gosh, if individuals, help me, what month do people graduate out here? I don't have enough, what are these things? Those bubbles for everybody on that. But yeah, May, June, okay, so that's when they graduate. Well, shoot, if we're doing our resource fair in the spring, then it's May and June. People heard something and boom, they're gone. Oh, we kind of missed an opportunity there. We reserve the right to get smarter. We now do our transition fair in the fall, okay? We do it in October. This year, we're going to have, for the first time ever, we're going to have students and parents who are in their last year of school stand up publicly at this transition resource fair and say, we're going to get a job by June. Okay? And we've never done that before. We haven't said job by June. Sorry. So that, we think that'll be powerful. We think that will be quite a statement. Because if you're going to stand up in front of your peers, the community, the other parents, and say jobs by June, good golly. Somebody earlier said one of the things we greatly fear is 1, public speaking, and 2, embarrassment. Not going to feel real good if May rolls around and we got nowhere. We don't have a job. It isn't we're going to shoot for a job. We're hoping to have a job. We're going to stand up and say we're going to have a job by June. And quite honestly, Diane and I are shooting for a job by January. It's a J month, why not? Let's do that.
I'm busy in June.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
What that requires is, I only have, 10 minutes left? Kidding. All right, so where do we go from here? Oh, it's evolved. The agenda, when we look back at the years, the agenda some years ago when we started it was quite a bit system-based, about the system and more like that. Now, we're educating folks all the time about the system, but much more kind of well-rounded in community involvement. Last year, we focused, we had 4 kind of half-hour presentations and focused on, what was the first one? The first one was an iPad presentation. Gentleman who experiences anxiety disorder, developmental disorder, and is blind. He got up and he shared what he'd used an iPad to create a visual resume. Okay? And so, look, the guy's got a lot of cachet. He stands up in front of the group and says, look what I've done. And, people go, whoa, how'd that happen? Wow, that's kind of cool. Well, I kind of want what he's got. So good stuff there. And that's what started it. Then we had a fabulous person from the neighboring county who talked about Social Security and the work incentives and how all that stuff works. Quite honestly, that stuff is Greek to me, and I have kind of chosen not to figure it out because it's a little too confusing for me. Good news is there are folks that know that stuff. So let's lean on that. We have our skills, they have theirs. It was great. Another county, quite honestly, this county is like really big. How many people does
Snohomish.
Snohomish has, I'll say, a couple 100,000, maybe it's more than that. So they got the money to have a benefits planner. So I say, oh, Stuart, could we have Melinda come over? And he's really nice, and he has Melinda come over. And Melinda's great. She turns SSI stuff into what I call plain language, because I don't understand the language that sometimes large systems like SSI uses. She turns it into plain language, and parents go, oh, really? I get that, as opposed to, huh? So good stuff there. We'll continue to push those boundaries. I hope that in a couple of years we can say we want to have businesses stand up in front of folks in October to show off and say, you know what, the graduate from your school, he's now been employed with us for X years and this is doing really well. We think that then parents in the audience will go, oh, so I guess there are some jobs out there. We want to kind of turn that tide. Earlier, folks talked about attitude. Diane mentioned middle school. So at these transition resource fairs, our public relations aren't just to say 18 to 21 or 16 to 21. I got the cue. We tell the school districts at least from 14 on up. But I with the county, I have very good access to the birth to 3 programs. We get information about this to the birth to 3 programs, because wouldn't it be great? There are sometimes parents very young who want to see, I wonder what's going on over there. I wonder what about the future of my child. And so you have them come to something like that where we're talking about jobs. Wow, this is a whole new ballgame. And you get that attitude early on that, oh, jobs. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Gosh, if we're going to educate folks from 3 to 21, might we want to get a return on that? Where are we at? Who's next? What time is it? Oh, here we go.
That's it.
Okay, so I covered some of that. This coming year, we're signing a contract to do this school to work. Part of that I already talked about is that those folks standing up and saying we're going to get a job by June. We've just done some more formal efforts because by signing a contract with the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, great folks, right? But they've been a little bit of a weak partner, I'll say, in our group. And by signing a contract with them, it's a little harder to be a weak partner. You really got to come to the table if we're going to sign a contract. And guess what? When we get those kids jobs and they leave in June, and I'm the county, we're going to put in some extra money to help this happen. Department of Voc Rehab will reimburse me for my investment to the tune of something like $8,500 for each kid that comes out that has a job. I'm putting out that kind of money, so I'm sticking my neck out. If they don't get jobs, we're out that money. You know what? It's worth it. It's an investment because the system's going to work better together, and we're going there. And it also makes DVR a little more accountable because we're going into a contract with them. So there's a whole bunch of slides about, you heard about on-campus work. The good news is, that's not it. There's a whole bunch of off-campus work because that's where they're going to get jobs, right? This is a whole bunch more. We got great stories behind this. We don't have time. So just a couple thoughts on working with families. I think you kind of got that feel throughout the day. Community organizations, I would pose to you that if there's some community organization you think isn't your partner, then that's probably where you got to work the hardest. Maybe. Start with the other ones, but they could be your partner down the line. I'd look in the phone book, talk to the chamber. They all should be your partners down the line. What do we do with that?
Just curriculum.
Curriculum's good stuff.
So, we have to go, right? Yeah, we're getting like, sorry about that.
Oh, everyone.
Yeah,
That's a great story, but you have to catch her afterwards about
Yeah, but, so I have some more great stories. If you want to talk to me about curriculum or that kind of thing, what I use is,
no, that's okay.
I'll be here, or back there, or anything.
And before I get kicked off the stage, I want to say it has been great. We felt very welcomed. We had an opportunity last night to go to a barbecue on this ranch that was larger than my brain is able to comprehend, 18,000 acres. And what welcoming. The hosts kept feeding us, and the table was really long, and then there was another table of desserts. And to me, I thought, this is Wyoming. This is, this kind of a community can do this.
Yeah.
If this is the kind of celebration, the kind of welcoming that we get coming from out of state just to chat a little bit, just think what they do for their own. This is awesome. So you're great. There you go.
Thank you very much.